From our studios in the Southern Food and Beverage Museum in New Orleans, welcome to our Louisiana Eats podcast series, Quick Bites. I'm Poppy Tooker. Annually, all of Louisiana eagerly anticipates the onset of crawfish season, and no one knows more about crawfish than Zatarains. After all, they're the folks who actually invented the seasoning mix we all know as crab boil, but that's actually used for boiling all sorts of seafood, along with an amazing array of other ingredients. No one knows how to boil crawfish quite like Claude Davis, who also goes by the name Dr. Boyle. Claude is a native New Orleanian who works as a principal scientist for Zatarains. That means that Claude not only helps dream up new products, but also maintains the flavor profile of their classic, traditional Louisiana ingredients. Claude cooked up quite a Louisiana Eats adventure for us when we traveled to Gretna for a sidewalk crawfish boil at the Zatarain's facility. Are you going to blind us with some science today, Claude?
Let's blind you with some science, some delicious science today.
Okay, well, I'm ready. We're going to boil some crawfish?
We're going to boil some crawfish.
I understand you're an expert.
I'm kind of an expert.
And how did you get that title?
You know, I've been boiling for many years, and since I've been at Zatarain's, I've had an opportunity to learn from some of the legends that have come through here, like my friends Dudley, Jimmy, and Robert, and I've taken their skill sets and matched it with mine, and I think I've come up with a good recipe.
Claude, let's start at the beginning. So how do you, the scientist, end up out here on the sidewalk in Gretna in front of Zatarain's boiling crawfish with me?
Well, it's an easy one. This is my culture. This is where I'm from, so I'm accustomed to doing backyard boils. So being out front of Zatarain's is just like being in my backyard. You know, growing up, whether it's at my house or at a relative's home, we have crawfish boils. This is Louisiana. We have a boil wherever we can.
As a scientist, what do you do for Zatarain's?
As a scientist, I develop the products for Zatarain's, different flavor systems, different ingredients, seasonings, work on different products, everything from jambalaya to our frozen foods. So that's what I do. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do. So I have a sack of crawfish, which I immerse in water. So they've been in water since this morning, about maybe 8 a.m. or so. And that's my rinsing. I get them pretty clean, so I don't have to do as much rinsing. I do not purge. Some people do purge, but I don't. Remember, crawfish are a freshwater species, so I do not purge. I'm not trying to kill crawfish before I put them in. And there's been a recent study from the LSU Ag Center that said that there's really no advantage in purging them. And most restaurants don't do it anyway because they don't have the time to do that. So since there's no big advantage, I don't take the time to do anything any differently.
What does sitting in the clean water do for them?
Sitting in the clean water gets any kind of crud off them that may remain. They are mud bugs. So that's one way of rinsing them off. And I don't want all that in the boil. We want to get all this great flavor from Zatarain's when we add all the ingredients.
So they're just having a bath before they have the big hot bath, huh?
Yes, they're having a nice cool bath before they have a nice warm and then very hot bath as that temperature elevates.
How many pounds do you have?
78 pounds of crawfish today.
Well, I'm hungry. Can we get started?
So am I. Let's get started, Poppy.
Okay. That's like blast off. That's blast off for crawfish, huh?
That's right. Blast off.
What do you think the biggest challenge to boiling crawfish is?
It's about getting the right amount of water and seasonings, and I think the process that I'm going to walk you through today keeps it very simple for everyone.
What else do you put in your boil besides Zatarain's crab boil?
Well, I use 3 layers of Zatarain's crab boil. So I use the 3-ounce bag and boil, which is something we sell nationwide. That's what most of the country knows. We also have the sack size pre-seasoned blend, and then I use the liquid boil. So I use 3 ounces of the bag and boil, the full sack size pre-seasoned container, which is like 2.4 pounds. And then there's the 4 ounce of our liquid boil. So you use complete bottles, complete bags of everything. There's no need to measure anything out. It's all been pre-measured, and the layering of flavor works very well.
And what about salt?
The salt is already included in the pre-season.
Great. Now, what kind of veggies are we putting in here? What do you do with that?
Well, I usually have onions, I'll have mushrooms, I put mirliton, which is something that we added.
Melliton?
That's right, melliton.
I've never heard of putting melliton
I
in
put
crab
melliton.
oil.
Absolutely. It's delicious.
How do you do that?
Slice it in like quarters and drop it in like spears. And it works just as well, almost like celery.
How often do you boil crawfish for the crew here at Zatarain's?
Usually about 2 to 3 times a year. I'll do that, and at home about 4 to 5 times during the season I'll do it. Because I also like to enjoy other people cooking crawfish too.
Amen. Amen. I guess when people hear what you do for a living, they might think, oh, maybe Claude ought to do this job.
Yeah, my uncle is the one exception. Every 4th of July weekend, he has a big gathering in his backyard, and he asks me, and since that's my uncle, out of respect, I always make time to do it for him.
You boil crawfish on the 4th of July?
Around the 4th of July every year.
Where do you get them from? I thought that was too late for crawfish.
Oh, this is Louisiana, and I don't know where he gets them from. But he
ways.
does. He has a way to get them, and it's not a problem. We do this every year.
Now, Claude, what is the difference for you in the process between boiling the crawfish and let's say you're going to boil shrimp, you're going to boil crabs, or what if you're having a boil that's including all three? What's the process that you go through then?
Well, the process that I go through when I add shrimp, for example, if all three are going to be served at the event, I've done it a couple different ways. When I shut it to let them soak, I drop about 2 to 3 pounds of shrimp in, so that works well. I've also had, at one time, someone at my home at a boil, they didn't eat crawfish at all. However, they like king crab claws, so I dumped those in at the same time with shrimp and crawfish and everything. So I've done a combination of adding them all. But if I boil shrimp by themselves, I follow the same process as I've started here. Then I drop the shrimp, boil for a short amount of time, hold for about 15 minutes, then release them. And you can have your corn, sorry, Poppy, your sausage, and everything else, all the other vegetables. So it's really the same sort of process, whether shrimp, crab, or crawfish is just the whole time. May vary depending on what you have.
Let's talk about crabs a little bit, because crabs are not entirely the same thing. They're bigger, they cook longer, and why the heck do they throw their claws? Do you know how to keep them from doing that?
Well, I like to pour from the bag, and I keep that, away. That way they're going right into the hot water. So that keeps them out of my way, no clipping, clapping me on my fingers or pinching.
So what's new around here, Claude? What's happening at Zatarain's?
Our people are working around the clock. It's boil season, so they're making sure we have enough boil to meet the needs for people this season. That's kind of the word. We love this time of year, and we're looking forward to a great season.
Now, I know that McCormick Schilling owns Zatarain's. Does the seafood boil make it out any further into other states? How broad is the distribution?
So, where you can buy our Zatarain's boils.
How far does it go?
As far as it goes in stores, you will find it nationwide, the 3-ounce bag in boil with the spices and herbs. Regionally, from Texas to Florida, you will find not just the 3-ounce bag and boil, you'll find the sack size, which is what we use, the 4.5 pound, as well as our liquid boils. But if you go on Amazon, you can find our stuff on Amazon. It's not a problem. That's the World Wide Web.
It sure is.
We reach the world, actually.
I'm very curious. Do you have any knowledge about the consumption of this product outside of Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, and Florida? Because I would think that somebody in Pennsylvania is going to look at that and go, what the heck is this for?
Well, I would say we benefit from there's a couple of things. With Hurricane Katrina, we have people that have moved all around the country, right? So they know that they can order crawfish and boil crawfish, right? Not a problem. Also, we benefit from the alumni chapters of the wonderful universities across the state, where I know with one of our great universities out in California, every year they do a big boil in Los Angeles, in New York City, etc. And we've also taken it on the road with some of my colleagues, taking a crawfish boil up to New York City, for example, and along the East Coast. So people are very familiar, not only with New Orleanians and people with connections here, bringing it back to wherever they're from, but Zatarain's has also made a presence going to different places doing boils.
So what's that experience like when you go to New York City with crawfish? They don't know what to do with them up there.
I haven't done it personally, but I have seen the film, and people are very excited. It is something different, and I think it just gives a way to show people that, yes, you come to New Orleans, you visit, you love to eat it, but there's a way that you can do it yourself, too, at home. And I love the fact that we get a chance to be a champion for our culture and what we bring from Louisiana to other places.
What's your first memory of eating crawfish, Claude?
I'm wondering if I can even remember. I mean, I had to be probably 3 or 4 years old. I remember eating that boil, so it's been a long time.
I personally remember crawfish on the tray of the high chair. I really do, and crabs too.
Absolutely. Crawfish tails, my kids had it.
My grandpa was always willing to peel for me up to a point, but that's how you get them going, right there in the high chair, right?
That's right. When you get to be about 4 or 5 years old, you should be able to peel those crawfish on your own.
You got to hold your own there.
That's right.
From your scientific point of view, Claude, could you walk me through the difference between the 3 forms of crawfish boil that Zatarain sells?
Sure. So for our bag-in 3 ounce, it's a mixture of spices and herbs. There's no sodium, nothing. It's pure flavor from herbs and spices.
Now, I'm not asking you to crack any big secrets in the code here, but what's in there?
You have things like, dill seed, you have mustard seed, those type of things in there. And of course, we have pepper. So just very simple. All the ingredients are listed there on that 3 ounce. Very, very simple ingredient statement.
So how does it change from whole seasonings in the bag to the powder and then to the liquid?
Sure. When we go to our pre-season, this is where we're giving you everything you need for a boil. So typically people may have salt, they'll have cayenne pepper, all that stuff as separate ingredients. But with our Zatarain's 4.5 pound sack size, everything is added. So you have your cayenne, you have your salt, you have your paprika, all the ingredients you need to flavor your boil. So I like to call, this pre-season, I like to say we twist, pop the lid off and then drop. So twist, pop, and drop on this one. And then you asked about our liquid as well. So on the liquid, this is where we bring a lot of heat. Now we do have a version of our pre-seasoned blend that has a little extra kick. It's our extra spicy. But this liquid, it always delivers more heat. The capsicum is the key ingredient in here, which is measured from a scientific standpoint, Scoville heat units. So the higher the Scoville heat units, the hotter it is. And that's why it's a concentrated form, so you have to be very, very careful. That's why for something of this size, what we're doing today, I always use 4 ounces total for the entire sack. That's more than enough. And again, because I layer all 3 flavors from the boil-in bag to the pre-seasoned blend and then finish it off with the liquid, it gives you this wonderful array of flavors of the crawfish.
The president in November pardons a turkey, but what do we do here in Louisiana?
There's nothing else to do but pardon the crawfish. It makes the most sense. We treasure those little guys and girls.
Tell me about the pardoning of the crawfish.
We pardon the crawfish. This was our 2nd annual Zatarain's Pardoning of the Crawfish. It's an event where we engaged the Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana, so Mr. Nungesser was there. We had the Crawfish Festival Queen, and we also had the reigning Crawfish King, who was a part of the event. And lots of fun. We roll out the red carpet literally for Emil. There's a whole song and dance. Sun Pie and his team did a great job playing the music. They created a song for Emil. And the crawfish is named Emil after the founder of Zatarain's, Emil Zatarain. And it's just a wonderful event. We had great coverage in the media, and people had a lot of fun with it. And we enjoyed it. We thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's a new tradition that we want to keep going year over year.
Once Emil is pardoned, where does he go to live out his days?
He goes to the Bayou Signet State Park right over here on the West Bank to live out his years.
Oh, that lucky, lucky crawfish.
What a lucky guy. He can't be crawfished in Bayou Signet State Park.
Well, Emil was lucky on that day, but I think we're lucky today because we're going to eat the rest of his family.
We are lucky today. We are lucky today. There are a lot of people lined up waiting to eat this wonderful crawfish today, too.
What's going to happen next?
What's happening next is we're going to let that boil once it reaches a rolling boil for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then I will remove the vegetables. I will add the crawfish, add the sausage, add the celery, add this 4-ounce liquid crab boil to it. Give it a stir, let that boil for a couple of minutes, reach a rolling boil for 2 minutes, shut it off. Then I'm going to add corn. And I'm going to add all these wonderful vegetables back, the onions, the mirliton, everything back, and let all that soak for about 15 to 20 minutes. And we'll have a family and office-friendly version of crawfish where the temperature is just right enough for anybody who would like to eat them.
While we waited for the crawfish to soak, we met Zatarain's newest New Orleanian, General Manager Raj Nair.
Oh, I'm just excited to be here. It's been about 6 months, and I think New Orleans and the team here at Zatarain's have welcomed me with open arms.
Where'd you come from?
I came up from Baltimore, Maryland.
Where McCormick is based, and of course everybody knows that that's the parent company, wonderful McCormick, that keeps our Zatarains right here in Louisiana. I can't tell you how important that is to us and how much it means to all of us. So you come from Baltimore. Is this your first crawfish season?
It's, I think, a lot of firsts for me for New Orleans. My first crawfish season, my first Mardi Gras. It's a lot of firsts for sure.
So how are you feeling about this?
Oh, it's amazing. You know, I've had now 2 opportunities to experience a crawfish boil, and it's like having a bag of potato chips. You can't stop with one.
So this experience must have been a little bit of a surprise to you, this crawfish boil experience.
Well, not really, because I've been kind of watching this from the sidelines out in Baltimore, Maryland, and now I have an opportunity to be right in the thick of it, you know. And we were talking earlier about how Zatarain's also ends up being part of the culture of New Orleans, and I think we take pride in not just having people like Claude, who is one of our quintessential brand ambassadors, but everyone here in McCormick and at Zatarain specifically takes pride in being an ambassador to the city, and the opportunity to showcase our food and flavor and culture is something I think we take great pride in.
Well, the feeling is mutual, because as a New Orleanian, we take great pride in Zatarain's being part of our scene and our table and our delicious flavor profile. So thank you, Raj, for everything you do for us to keep things perking along here in New Orleans.
Quite welcome.
So now we're going to scoop out some crawfish. I find I get good flavor distribution across the crawfish rather than pouring the whole sack in, and some may not get soaked as much. So that tends to work well for me, so that's what I do. Now what I'm going to do is I will add the 4 ounces of the liquid, Zatarain's liquid concentrated boil, and I'm using the entire bottle. So I'm going to put lemon, and I'd use 12 halves, and I squeeze the juice in because I want that lemon flavor. So I'm also going to add the celery and the smoked sausage at this point. So I want this to reach a rolling boil for about 2 minutes. Then I will shut it off. And we have some mushrooms too that I'm going to add at this stage. So I'm going to return the lid, put the lid back on, let that reach a rolling boil for about 2 solid minutes, then shut it off. And at that point, I'll add my corn to cool things down, and I will return the vegetables that I boiled at the beginning, which are the onions, the garlic, and everything else that we put in at the beginning. And then mirliton too. And of course, we can't forget the corn to cool it down. Once we shut it off, the flame, you use frozen corn to help cool your water down, cool the temperature of your boil. And about 15 to 20 minutes in, they'll be good enough for anyone to eat, from young children to adults. We're gonna let that soak for about 15 to 20 minutes. We'll do a check. At 15, we'll taste the crawfish. If it's to our liking, we'll shut it down and enjoy some great crawfish.
Just then, Claude lifted the lid on the hot pot of soaking mud bugs and fished out a couple for us to test for seasoning.
Oh yeah, I think they're ready to go, Poppy.
Okay, well, let's eat.
Let's eat.
Claude Davis, Zatarain's Dr. Boyle. Believe it or not, sometimes there actually are crawfish left over from a crawfish boil. My favorite thing to make with those leftovers is étouffée. Once the crawfish are peeled, my étouffée recipe cooks in less time than it takes to make the rice. After peeling the crawfish, cover the crawfish shells with water and bring to a boil. After peeling the crawfish, cover the shells with water and bring to a boil to make a quick stock. For each pound of crawfish meat, melt 1 stick of butter in a sauté pan, then whisk in a half of a small can of tomato paste. Don't worry if the butter and tomato paste look sort of lumpy and curdled. They simply won't go together smoothly, so no matter how it looks, just keep going for about 2 or 3 more minutes. That bit of cooking deepens the tomato flavor. Add 1 bunch of thinly sliced green onions and a finely chopped clove of garlic to the butter-tomato paste mixture. The étouffée gets seasoned with thyme and bay leaf, then the crawfish stock is whisked in. That's when the whole thing turns into a smooth tomato gravy instead of the lumpy mess you've been cooking so far. Add the crawfish tail meat along with several good shakes of hot sauce and a little salt. Stir the étouffée well and cover. Then reduce the heat to the lowest setting, letting everything simmer together for 5 minutes. Your étouffée is ready to serve. For a copy of this recipe, visit poppytooker.com. I hope you enjoyed this special crawfish quick bite, brought to you with support from Zatarain's Crab Boil, the original seafood boil and the true flavor of crawfish season. Don't miss a delicious upcoming serving of Louisiana Eats by subscribing to our podcast. Also, visit poppytooker.com for lots more recipes and delicious food ideas. Louisiana Eats original theme music by Johnny Sketch and the Dirty Notes. Thanks to Sarah Holtz and Reggie Morris who produced this podcast. I'm Poppy Tooker. Thanks for listening. And thanks to our major sponsors, Camellia Bean, Zatarain's, French Market Coffee, and Rouse's Markets. Visit poppytooker.com to see a full list of our partners. This Louisiana Eats Quick Bite was produced by Poppy Tooker Broadcasting.